I used to believe that Melissa and I were solid. Not perfect, of course. We argued over silly things like laundry and who left the lights on, but we had rhythm, comfort. We made coffee for each other in the mornings without asking, texted throughout the day, and watched bad sitcoms together every Friday night. But lately, something's been off. It started small. She began working later than usual. I'd ask when she'd be home, and she'd respond with vague answers, not sure yet, or depends on how long the meeting runs. At first, I didn't think much of it. Her company had picked up a major client, and her boss, Mr. Grant, had been putting the entire team under pressure. She told me about it over dinner one night, brushing it off with a tired smile. Then came the phone. Always upside down. Always on silent. One night, sometime after 2 a.m., I was startled awake by the bathroom light flickering under the door. Melissa wasn't in bed. I lay there for a moment, thinking maybe she just couldn't sleep. But then I heard her whispering. Soft. Careful. Not a call with HR or a late-night coworker check-in. This was intimate. Her voice dipped in a way I hadn't heard in a while, not toward me, anyway. I crept out of bed and tiptoed toward the door. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I caught the tone. Then suddenly, silence. A flush. The faucet. Then she emerged, feigning a sleepy yawn and pretending to be surprised that I was awake. Work emergency, she said with a tired grin. Grant needed figures for a presentation. I nodded, but I felt something shift. It was small, like a hairline crack on glass. Almost invisible. But I saw it. I felt it. From that night on, my eyes opened. I noticed the extra time she spent getting ready before work. The lingering smiles when her phone buzzed. The way her mood lifted randomly in the evenings, often after checking a message. She still kissed me goodbye in the morning, but it felt lighter. Not missing, just hollow. One night, 2 weeks after the 2 a.m. call, I lay beside her, awake. The room was dark. Her breath was steady. I was trying to count the seconds between each exhale, forcing myself to sleep. And then I heard her whisper. Just one word. Grant. My heart stopped. She didn't even stir. Just shifted slightly under the covers and settled deeper into sleep. I stayed still, eyes wide open in the darkness, wondering if I had imagined it. Maybe it was part of a dream she was having. Maybe she was talking about work. Maybe. But the way she said his name, it wasn't professional. It wasn't casual. It was soft. It was affectionate. It sounded like how she used to say my name, back when things were simpler. I didn't confront her. I didn't even move. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, hearing that one word replay in my mind. Over and over again. The next morning, I watched her carefully as she poured my coffee and laughed at something on her phone. The screen lit up with a name I couldn't see. She turned it over quickly. Same routine. She was smiling more these days, but never at me. Something had changed. I could feel it pressing into our quiet moments, slipping between our silences. She still made my coffee, still curled beside me when she was cold. But it all felt like autopilot, like she was going through the motions while her heart was somewhere else. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I knew what I heard. I knew what I felt. And somewhere deep inside me, a voice whispered the same way she had whispered his name. This wasn't nothing. This was the beginning of something breaking. The days after that whisper moved slowly, like I was wading through wet cement. My mind kept circling the same thought. Was I imagining this? Was I just being paranoid? But then I'd remember the way she said his name, soft and dreamlike, like a secret that slipped past her lips. And that was enough to keep the doubt alive. I started noticing everything. How she tilted her phone away when I walked past. How her responses became shorter, more distracted. The way she laughed at something on her phone during dinner but wouldn't explain what was funny. When I asked, she'd say, just a meme Kara sent. But it never felt honest. One afternoon, when she was in the shower, I did something I'd never done in our entire relationship. I picked up her phone. My hands trembled slightly as I unlocked it. Her passcode hadn't changed, at least not yet. I didn't want to dig. I didn't want to find something. I just needed to know I was wrong. But she had already cleared her messages. Nothing suspicious. Just a couple of office group texts and short chats with Kara and her sister. Even the call logs looked clean. Still, there was something too clean about it. Like a sink scrubbed too hard to hide the blood. I put the phone down before she came out, but the guilt burned inside me. I wasn't this person. We had trust. Or at least, we used to. That night, she wore lipstick to work. She said they had an important investor dinner. That her boss would be there. Grant. I nodded like it didn't bother me. Like I hadn't been haunted by his name for nights now. I even smiled, told her she looked beautiful. And she did. That was the worst part. Later, when she left, I called Kara. Kara was Melissa's closest coworker, and once, a close friend to both of us. I didn't want to drag her into this, but I needed something. Anything. Kara, I said hesitantly, can I ask you something? And please, be honest. There was a pause on the other end of the line. A long, tense pause. Then she sighed. I'm not sure what you think is happening, she said slowly, but Melissa and Grant, they spend a lot of time together. More than anyone else on the team. What do you mean? Late meetings. Trips she doesn't tell you about. Inside jokes. Flirting. I don't know if it's serious, but it's not innocent either. Her words sliced deeper than I expected. I thanked her and hung up. My throat was dry. My chest heavy. It wasn't confirmation of an affair. Not yet. But it was enough to confirm that my instincts weren't just insecurity. There was smoke. And somewhere, there was fire. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake long after she returned home, pretending to be asleep while I listened to her softly remove her earrings in the dark, her perfume still lingering in the air. She didn't try to touch me. Didn't lean in for a goodnight kiss. Just crawled into bed and turned away. I stared at the ceiling. Around 3 a.m., something pushed me to check her laptop. I hesitated. This was a line. But then I remembered her whisper. Grant. And I crossed it. The laptop was asleep. I tapped it awake and saw her inbox open. She must have forgotten to log out. The inbox was clean. Again. But in the trash folder, hidden beneath old work documents and newsletters, was a hotel reservation. Not for a trip with me. Not for anything I knew about. Just a single night. One room. Downtown. I stared at it, the room spinning slowly. The booking was made last week. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel rage. Just numb. Like a part of me was shutting down to protect the rest. The next morning, I acted normal. I kissed her forehead and asked if she needed a ride to work. She declined. Said she was meeting a client for lunch. I nodded. But inside, I was no longer guessing. I was preparing. Preparing to find the truth, even if it shattered everything. The night I decided to leave town, I didn't tell her everything. Just enough. I've got a work thing out of state, I said, tossing my duffel bag over my shoulder. Back in 2 days. Melissa nodded without looking up from her phone. Okay. Travel safe. No hug. No kiss. Just a distracted murmur and a glass of wine half finished beside her. That was all I got. Maybe that was all she had left to give. But I hadn't left town. Not really. I drove to a hotel not far from our neighborhood. A place with cheap walls and poor lighting. I didn't care about comfort. I cared about proximity. Before I left the house, I had planted something small beneath our bed frame. A motion-triggered audio recorder. Nothing too fancy. Just enough to capture what happened when I wasn't supposed to be there. The first night, I waited. I stared at the audio feed live on my phone. 4 hours, nothing happened. Just silence. Then footsteps. Music. The creak of our bedroom door. Then silence again. But on the second night, something changed. At 9:42 p.m., I heard the front door open. I froze. A man's voice. Faint, but smooth. Confident. It wasn't Grant, not in person anyway. I listened carefully. Melissa giggled. No, I'm alone. He's out of town. I promise. She wasn't talking to someone in the room. She was talking to her phone. A video call. I miss you too, she whispered. Then there was silence. For a while, just soft murmurs I couldn't fully make out. And then she said his name. Grant. My stomach twisted, even though I knew it was coming. I wish you were here, she continued. You're the only thing I think about lately, even when I'm lying beside him. I shut off the feed. I'd heard enough. It was worse than a physical affair. She wasn't just cheating with her body, she was gone emotionally. Fully. I could feel it in every word, every breath she gave him that night. I didn't sleep. I sat in the car, the keys still in the ignition, watching the rain coat the windshield in blurry patterns. At some point, I stopped feeling anything at all. The next morning, I went back home. She was already in the kitchen, dressed like it was any other Wednesday. She greeted me with a smile and asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes. She poured it for me. 2 sugars, no cream. Just the way I liked it. She looked like the same Melissa. But she wasn't. We sat in silence for a few minutes. She scrolled through her phone. I sipped my coffee. Neither of us mentioned anything. I didn't confront her. Didn't ask. Didn't accuse. I had everything I needed. But nothing to say. Some betrayals don't explode. They dissolve you slowly. They leave you sitting across the breakfast table from someone you no longer know, pretending you're fine. That night, as we lay in bed again, I stared at the ceiling like I had so many nights before. Her breath was slow, steady. Then she shifted slightly in her sleep and whispered something again. I love you. But she didn't say my name. I didn't ask who she was dreaming about. I already knew. She still sleeps beside me. But in her dreams. I've been replaced. And now, so have the promises.